welcome.
Thank you, Dave.
And you've got this back.
For a while. It comes and goes. It's all based on my wife's opinion.
Yeah. I lost that vote too. All right. You're here and hearing from the professionals and the city and county folks. What did you hear that was new, or is that possible?
Well, although these meetings, I don't hear a lot of new things because, I'll be honest with you, Dave, a lot of the folks in this room, if not everyone, has come to us over the last 4.5 years representing their communities, their groups, and talking about the need to invest in infrastructure. So a lot of what we've heard has been discussed before, but we've heard a lot of discussion on how do we look ahead. And a lot of times in government, there's not a lot of vision looking in the next 10 to 20 years, let alone 30 years. We instead look at the next 10 to 20 minutes. And I think that's a big change.
And Mr. Graves, same question. New, what did you hear new?
Well, what's interesting is it's not so much new. I get an opportunity to travel all over the country. Communities from one state to the next are dealing with the same problems. And it's, it crosses state lines. The same funding issues, the same, rural versus urban issues, the same infrastructure problems, and it's fascinating to hear that. And you pick up new things every once in a while, but we get the opportunity to do this a lot, so we hear a lot of the same, and that just, solidifies the reason, there's things that we need to fix.
You didn't have to be much of a mind reader or someone to crib off my notes to say time and time again, how are we going to pay for it? I don't know either.
That's the reason why I'm so glad to have Chairman Graves here. Just last week, his subcommittee that he chairs, that I'm a part of, had numerous representatives from throughout this country come to us to actually talk to us about different funding sources, talk to us about what a long-term sustainable highway bill means. Now, there's always talk about the current source, the gas tax. Right now, we trust our entire highway trust fund, maintenance and construction of our roads and bridges in this country to one source that the same federal government tells you to burn less of. We've got to diversify. We've got to figure out how to do that. And that's what a lot of the discussion at the hearing that Chairman Graves ran was about, and a lot of the discussion here today was about the same thing.
You talked a little bit about electricity, and you're even younger than I am, but I remember riding with my dad, and he'd drive up to the pump and tell the attendant, remember those, fill her up with Super Shell, which was Ethel. And now we're talking about, GM of all people is ramping up the electric cars, and the future is going to look a lot different than today, even so.
It's going to look a lot different, and when we originally proposed funding highways, all it was gas and diesel. And now obviously that's changing considerably. We're going to try to recoup those dollars, and obviously there will come a time when we'll be in it one of these days. But right now we've got to figure out what that next step is and try to think forward.
I love your story because I remember pulling up to the gas station. There were full-service gas stations back in the 70s. And we were in a Ford Country Squire green station wagon with wood paneling. And my mom would say regular, which was leaded, rather than unleaded. And we've seen how the transportation industry and the sector has changed since then. Although I think the green wood panel station wagon will make a comeback someday.
The wood paneling is what makes this, you got to have that.
And that was my first car when I turned 16.
Well, between that and the glasses you had and that photo of you on the grill. Mercy. Talking about energy, coal is a huge deal here. There's plenty of coal in this area, and yet it's about as popular as wet socks, and there's a war on coal. What's the right note on trying to keep the coal people happy and keep everybody else happy?
Well, it's not just about keeping coal people happy, David. It's about providing some of the best paying jobs I have in my district. I've got 3 coal-fired power plants and a 4th at the University of Illinois that can switch between natural gas and coal. Some of the best paying jobs in my district are union jobs at these facilities. And the benefit of the job that each of them do is that they provide baseload generating power to all of us here in central Illinois and also beyond in the Midwest. If those coal plants are shut down because of the regulatory environment in Washington, then rates will go up for those who can least afford it. And that's why we need a balanced approach. Coal needs to be a part of that. Nuclear needs to be a part of that. Wind certainly is becoming more a part of that. So is renewable, but you cannot run the American economy alone on renewable resources like wind and solar. Got to have baseload capacity, and we've got to have the jobs that are associated with it.
A couple more quickly. President Trump has just changed everything, and how do you be a congressman and a candidate when, I mean, if the next person on the plane says, "What do you think of Donald Trump?" I don't know. What do you think? Because you don't know what's going to come next.
You know, look, I think I come from a different perspective because I worked as a congressional staffer under numerous administrations, and frankly, a lot of the same conversations were had with people who disagreed with whomever was in power, be it President Clinton at the time I started, President Bush, President Obama, now to President Trump. So it's just a lot of political preferences, and there are people that are always going to be surprised. But one thing I found out about Washington is that, you know, and I found out working with President Trump personally on some healthcare related issues, he wants to be engaged. He wants to learn more. But the American people chose for the first time in our lifetime a president who has zero government, zero even military experience. He's going to be different. The American people wanted different, and that's exactly why he's president today.
And how have things changed, or is there anything new to say about the baseball field incident and your friend Congressman Scalise being back on the floor and everything that's happened since then?
Let me tell you something. Sam and I got to know each other better playing baseball. And being there that day, I can tell you when Steve Scalise walked onto that floor, that was probably the best moment I had on that House floor since coming to Congress. To see him from the last spot that I saw him, which was motionless out between second base and the outfield, I can tell you, that morning I didn't know if we'd see that day where Steve came back to the House floor. So
it's great. He made a great point. So we're just happy to have Steve back.
He's a catcher. What position do you play?
So I used to play center field, but I don't play anymore.
We're trying to get him back.
And the teams are House and Senate, or are they Republicans, Democrats?
It's Republican, Democrat. We've been playing the game for a long, long time, and we raise a lot of money for charity. It's one of the biggest charity events in the Washington, D.C. area.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we usually raised through that event about $500,000 to $600,000 for local D.C. charities, and the generosity of the American people this time, after the tragedy that some of us experienced, we were able to raise in less than 24 hours. We had a historic $600,000 raised. Another, I want to say another $900,000 was raised in less than 24 hours for local D.C. charities and also for the Capitol Police, who are the heroes of that tragedy.
My only question would be you talked about some of the things, a mileage tax, various technologies. My only concern would be the surveillance state. What protections are going to be for Americans' Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections with those new technologies?
Well, it's not surveillance. It's just going to be the difference between your odometer reading last year and this year. Some of the new technology is your odometer can talk to to the gas pump. What was the odometer reading the last time you filled up, and what is it this time you filled up? At least that gives you the opportunity to be able to do it on an ongoing basis rather than once a year, where you might get hit with a $300, $400, $500 bill at the end of the year. A lot of families just simply can't afford that. So, and a lot of individuals for that matter too. So we're looking at a lot of different ways to do that. But I would say, nobody wants anybody to know where they're going. It's nobody else's business. And that's the last thing we're going to do is have some sort of a GPS tracking system or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm probably not as big a proponent of VMT as I am of diversifying our current portfolio, and I think we have to have this debate. There are states that are currently implementing the pilot project of the VMTs, and so I'm interested to hear what those pilot projects bring back. But you're going to have those same concerns that you brought up, and that's going to impact the ability to pass that portion of any bill. But diversification is the key, because we've got to understand that the current status quo of just using the gas tax that we have now and having the federal government tell us to burn less of it is not going to actually help us fix and address our crumbling roads and bridges that were brought up here today at this event by everyone here that was in the meeting.
And VMT is
Vehicle miles.
vehicle miles
Traveled.
Okay. And when are you going to get Phil and Tyler raises? Come on.
We have several states right now that are doing pilot projects too to figure out just exactly how they would be able to collect that, and obviously not use any sort of a tracking system. And so you're going to see those pilot projects pop up all over the country over the next 2 years, and you're going to see some real interesting data that comes out of those, and maybe that'll guide us a little bit more.
When are you going to take care of Phil? Come on.
Oh, not a chance. No, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.